Hello and welcome to Economic Forum, a program where we discuss various issues affecting our economy in Zimbabwe. These can be issues to do with tourism, with agriculture, with mining, public relations, as well as information technology. What we do is to discuss these issues and see how they impact our economy. My name is John Masuku. When people are about to retire from work, they get worried, they become stressed, because in most cases they would have not planned for life after the world of work. In fact, we've seen situations whereby popular people like soccer players, musicians, journalists, business people become destitute after they've retired or after their businesses have closed. So today we want to look at how retirement can be planned for, in particular with our economy as it is. And we've invited into the studio Sebastian Zuze, who is a retirement consultant. Sebastian, welcome to Economic Forum.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
When we planned for this discussion, you warned me that you'll be discussing about a retirement tsunami. But before you define retirement tsunami, define retirement itself.
Thank you, John. I think what we need to do is, first of all, define this coming retirement tsunami. Because what I'm seeing is that our definition of retirement, which I'll give, is at the center of why we have problems with retirement. So let me just give the 5 effects of this, what I call retirement tsunami, then give the definition. So if you look, the first thing is depression. You know, the current way of understanding retirement results in about 60% increase in depression. And the attendant suicides. If you look at the rate of suicides, if you look at Bulawayo, there have been three suicides. And most of them, if you look underlying the root cause, you find the issues to do with loss of income, retirement issues. The other one is retirement tsunami, is the decline in mental and physical state. If you look at the state of our retirees after they've left, you look at the decline that happens. They grow old, like in 1 year or even less, someone is gone as old as they can be. The other thing is the high cases of divorce. All these are issues that have to do with retirement. The drinking or substance abuse, I call it the 5 Ds. The drinking, you know, if you look at the amount of people who are abusing drugs, who are drinking because they are now faced with this new reality of retirement, then ultimately the retirement tsunami manifests itself looking at death. You know, if you look at the time that someone retires and then you look at the time they take to actually now to death, it's as low as in some organizations, maybe as low as 3 years. This is where sometimes we used to hear when we were growing up, you used to hear the saying that he retired and he was killed by the wife so that she takes the pension. You know, there was that talk.
Before it gets finished.
Yes. And now when you look at that, now as I go around talking about retirement, I actually see that people go fast, they die because of the trauma of retirement. I want, before I actually define it, I want to tell you also about the effect of retirement on the organizations. You know, most of the time we make the error that retirement has to do with the employee only. Even organizations are impacted. Just think back about the organizations when we grew up, which used to be here. Look at where they are today. All those are retirement issues. But maybe
so there's no way an organization can retire and you still remain there.
Correct. In fact, organizations must go through a process of death and then they renew themselves. And we will go into that. But let me tell you the effect of retirement of employees on the organization. You know, if you analyze what I call post-employment anger, a lot of workers, after they've left the organization, they are angry against their employer. They think they've been used. They were used because the state they will be now. And, you know, I always want to warn companies that if such people are in marketing, for instance, they can demarket the organization. So organizations are actually carrying a risk if they don't have a robust retirement preparedness program. You know, the sustainability of our companies is also, retirement talks to that. The institutional memory loss. You know, the institutional memory loss. If we don't really look at retirement, organizations are becoming weaker because we're losing the institutional memory loss. The low worker morale and industrial relations. But let me come back to you. What is retirement? For us to define what retirement is, we need to look at the current understanding of retirement. You know, I've done a research and looked at what the word retirement and its origin. It has all the negative words associated with it. Depart, fading away, surrendering, retreat. All these are words associated with retirement. But how, and if you summarize all these words, you actually come up with retirement is currently understood. It means to leave your work or occupation due to age, to go home, to rest and wait until God calls you home. So we are actually saying when someone is retiring, they are spent, they are just going out there to sit, relax, and wait for God to call them home. In other words, to die.
That's the context there, Sebastian. You were talking about how it used to happen in the past. What we knew about our grandfathers and our fathers was that when they reached retirement age, they would get a plow or a watch, and then there would be a short ceremony at the workplace. And the next thing, they'll be heading for the rural home.
Very key point. I make the point that the retiring environment has changed. You know, if you look at the retiring environment, it has changed. You are looking at, we call it a VUCA environment. It's volatile, it's uncertain, it's complex, it's ambiguous. Actually, the coming in of artificial intelligence, it's actually going to pose opportunities but big threats to the future of work. You know, if you look at businesses, they are remodeling, they are changing. In fact, there's been a study that has been done which shows that you are likely to retire not based on age as we go into the future because the environment has changed. So we need now to respond to that. So let me explain what retirement is.
Very briefly.
I make the mention that retirement has nothing to do with age. If there is any misconception that we've carried for so long, is the thinking that retirement has to do with age. I mean, let's just analyze that thinking. It doesn't follow that when you're 65 or 60 years, you are now useless, you are spent, and you should go home and rest and wait until God calls you home. There is no scientific formula that has ever proved that. In fact, I make the point that a human being only gets finished when they go 6 feet down. So how do we define retirement?
How do we define retirement? We're still in the definition of retirement. I think you've made it clear that it has nothing to do with age. As we go into the second segment, you take it from there. That's Sebastian Zuze, who is a retirement consultant. He is educating us as the nation about how to plan for retirement and also giving different scenarios that really call for that. So join us in the second segment of Economic Forum.
Zimbabwe, the time has come. This is history in the making. The most unique and important period of equipping the saints in these end times. It is the International Pastors and Leaders Summit, the International Visitors Program, and the Prophetic Retreat, all in 1 week. It's happening in Zimbabwe with our man of God, Prophet Hubert Angel. This week will be powerful without fail. A chance to elevate your life to higher dimensions like never before. Get ready to have a complete week of life-changing learning from the best and get the real truth about Christianity. Zimbabwe, it's now your time to witness God's prophet and for your life to change forever. Power Week. Register now at www.hubertangel.org.
We are now in the second segment of Economic Forum, where today we are discussing retirement or retirement planning with our guest, Sebastian Zuze. Sebastian, you gave us various scenarios when you were defining the retirement tsunami, where you are saying there are so many signs showing that all is not well because people will have left employment and they are stressed, they get so worried, their divorces, their suicides and so forth. But you're still coming to the definition of retirement, which you have already said there is no scientifically proven definition to say when you reach the age of 65 or 70, therefore you are useless and cannot continue to work. Take it from there.
Thank you very much. So I just wanted also to emphasize to young people watching us that the moment you start thinking retirement is to do with age, you make the fatal error of saying, I'm still around, I'm still young. Retirement has nothing to do with age. What is retirement? Retirement is a point. So it is a point on the journey of employment. It is the point at which your passive income is greater than your living expenditure. When you leave that, when you get to that point where you leave your passive income, and I want to explain these words because they're critical. Passive income is money that you make without having materially participated. In other words, it's money that you make while sleeping. It's money that you don't have to have a register marked that you are present to make. Let me give an example. If today I buy a cow, and then the cow is young ones, and I start selling them, the young ones is passive income. Or a very good example, okay. We talk about a rent house. If I have a house which I don't stay in and I rent it out, the money I get from there is called passive income. Let me also take our viewers to understand that the money that we make when employed is called active income. Active income is very dangerous because it assumes that you always be active and fit. And with the onset of various ailments and things like that, you can see that it's not a good strategy to focus on active income. So when your passive income exceeds living expenditure, what is living expenditure? Is money that you need to fund your lifestyle, to pay for your fees, for your bills, for your kids' school and all that. That is living expenditure. When the passive income exceeds living expenditure, you have reached the point that I call financial freedom point. At the financial freedom point, you have reached the retirement point. So retirement is about having a strategy. Actually, that definition tells you what you should be doing as an employee. You should be focusing on building your passive income portfolio, making sure that you overcome your living expenditure. Then you become financially independent. But when you become financially independent, you don't go home to rest and wait until God calls you home. What you then do is move from your job to your work. I want to explain what your job is and what work is. But when you reach retirement, it doesn't mean you are waking up, you are asleep, you are just sitting there. You are actually, you'll be busier because you move from a job to your work. What is a job? A job is what you were trained to do. You know, I am a scientist. My degree is as a scientist. I'm a scientist. When I was working, I was doing my job. It's what I was trained to do. I use a skill to do my job. And here is also characteristics of a job. You cannot get financial independence from your job. You will get tired from your job. You are easily replaceable in your job. You know, as we talk right now, there are other young people who are being born, who are graduating from college, who are coming in, who can do our jobs faster and cheaper. So you are easily replaceable. You know, one mistake that employees make is to think that if I don't, I'm dispensable. If I don't come here, they come, and that is not true. You are doing your job. There are many skills out there which are being churned out. So retirement, that's a job. What is work? Work is your life assignment. Is what you were created to do. So when I retire, I retire because my passive income is now greater than my living expenditure. At that point, I now move from my job to my work. I want to clear the misconception of thinking when I retire, I'm doing my own things. What we are saying is you are now going to what you were created to do. Retirement, you move from your job to your work, because now you are contributing to humanity. You are solving problems.
Sebastian, what you have been saying all along is to do with our mindset. Most probably, it's because when we get into employment, there's induction. But then there is no induction or there's less induction about retirement. Or even what we call exit interviews as to, so what is your plan? How can we help? You know, things like that, so that you get that advice. Talk about that.
You know, I want actually to shock you. You know, I'm you know, in one of my roles, when I'm in interviews, I actually ask people, one of my questions is, if you should give you this job, when would you leave? If we give you this job, when would you leave? What am I saying? We are told, start with the end. You know, start with the end. Before you start anything, see the end of it. So when you are right, when we get into employment, we are not taught how to exit. If you look at various institutions of learning, very few or none at all have to do with giving us the mindset that I come in and I have to serve and then I have to proceed. So the first step in retirement preparedness plan, the first step is mindset. Changing your mindset from the company should do this for me, for instance, to where you are saying, what is my responsibility regarding managing my retirement? Talking to your family about retirement, managing your health. So I would like also to share, you know, a question that I'm always asked is, it's not enough, especially given our context. The money, it might not be enough, there's inflation, there are all these things happening around us. Where do you start? Because employees ask, where do I start? I don't have enough to build my passive income. So where do I start? I would like to give context to that.
I think where do we start is what we're going to be discussing in the third and final segment of Economic Forum with our guest, Sebastian Zuze, who is a retirement consultant. So join us in the third and final segment.
Don't be that joy. chirongwa chenyu mutinimira wemangoma mutinimira wemumanzi
changamuka isisi mungwarire kuridzwa kunge mabhitsi
micho bantu zidare kuimbisa
ungwa dzavo hadzina rugare
izo zvawakambonditawa iwe
hamuyekavang'ana
chirongwa manyama
mafunga moyo kubata basa rasi
songido endere kunakita
ukachembera waruza
We're now in the third and final segment of Economic Forum, where we are discussing retirement planning with our guest here, Sebastian Zuze, who is a retirement consultant. Having said all the things that you said in the previous segment about retiring, where exactly do you start? You may be in a formal employment, working for a company, or for yourself.
Very, very good. I think what we need, and we want to emphasize the point, formal employment, non-formal employment, all have to prepare for retirement. So the first thing is to understand that you need a plan. It's amazing how many people are living without a plan. You need to plan. Retirement requires you to have a plan. So I want to talk about the first step that you have to do. The first is total wellness management. Manage your health. As you move, you are the greatest asset that you have. You know, your body is going to be a major cost center if you don't take care of yourself while employed or while working for yourself, like if you are in non-formal employment. You need to make sure you understand diseases. Like these days, lifestyle diseases, diabetes, hypertension, all these cancers, understand them. Go for checks, manage your health. And let me emphasize one aspect of total wellness, which is mental health. It's amazing how many people are walking around and they have mental issues. Make sure you manage your mental health. Make sure you exercise, drink lots of water, consult, doctors. Make sure you start by managing your health. But where do we start? Because we are in an environment where people will say, I don't have enough. So let me clarify that. The first thing to understand is that cash is not only what you get paid. Money is not what only you get paid. I want to give you these things, and I want to challenge our viewers. If to actually contact us, or if they don't have the things I'm going to mention. These are the critical things. As long as you have these things, you are assured of getting through your retirement comfortably. The first one is knowledge. It's knowledge. If you look at, as a retirement consultant myself, what do I sell? I sell knowledge. So as you are working, as you are even working for yourself, you are coming into contact with various forms of knowledge. Are you monetizing those forms of knowledge? Knowledge, number one. Number two is skills. It's amazing. Someone will be working as a manager, but they know how to paint, they know how to do this, they have various skills. I taught one guy, he writes as a very good journalist, but he works as a messenger for one organization. So the skills that you have, monetize them. Your experience. Do you know this is why companies buy experience? And let me add, for those who have gone through terrible experiences, even an experience which was very uncomfortable for you, women out there who have been dumped or something happened to you, you can actually monetize that experience and sees you through retirement.
Like starting an NGO to talk about the experience and you monetize that.
Very good. To help others who are in that situation. There's a reason why we go through what we go through. Maybe it can help someone avoid suicide or something. You can start an organization. We see a lot of organizations which have been started on that. The other thing is your talent. It's amazing what we believe as Africans. This should give us comfort. We believe that every child comes into this world, holding their gifts. That's why we say they come like this, because they are holding their gift. It's amazing that people suddenly in retirement, they think, I no longer have a gift. We all have talents. There are things which we do so well that people will come and marvel.
Maybe while we are there, before we get to the level of management or directors, we're coming from somewhere where we're using our hands. And in most cases, when you retire, that's the first thing you think about. That I was a carpenter, I was a metal worker or so forth. Maybe you want to start from there, or you want to include that as part of something that you already know, a skill that you already have.
That's a good starting point. Because you have the knowledge, you have the skills. And that is where you could, and a good way to start is start investing. If I was working as a plumber, maybe now I can start something along those lines. Start investing, buy a bit of your equipment, put it aside, and be open to possibilities. Work on your mindset like we've talked about. So the other thing is your network. It's amazing the amount of people we come into contact with. Whatever you do in life, someone connected you there, someone led you there. So I want to encourage employees, I want to encourage the guys who work for themselves. Never antagonize people, because that's your network. That's your network. In fact, your money is based on the network that you have. That's why we even have these networking dinners, even as managers. As farmers, we have the country clubs. And that's the other thing in retirement, is ideas. What ideas do you have? You see, so I want to say, when
we're there on ideas, and we talked earlier on about mindset, pride, where, all those things that you used to do, but because you were a director at one point, you don't want to then reinvent them in a beneficial way. Talk about that.
You see, the ideas throughout your journey of employment or meeting people, working for yourself, you are getting ideas. That's why we say there's nothing new under the sun, because there are ideas that we get. How do we monetize them?
What is the role of the company in assisting you with retirement?
A company, and this is a critical question, because I go around and I see that many companies don't have a retirement preparedness program. And we have already shown that it's bad for a company. It actually affects the company. The company must come up with policies. For instance, to have retirement preparedness workshops where they are training their employees. But I want to add, so that we get this clarification, it's not about the companies to do this for me, yes, to do this for me. Let's make sure we take ownership of our retirement.
Just a few seconds about abrupt retirement that comes as a result of disasters as well as ailments like COVID-19. Very briefly there.
You know, I wanted to actually mention it can be traumatic. I want to finish by telling our viewers the 5 losses that happen. You know, when you are abrupt or forced retirement, there is loss of routine, loss of power, loss of identity. Some of us, we identify ourselves with the jobs that we do. And when we are suddenly told to go, there is a problem. Now we have to find a new loss of purpose, loss of relationships. You know, it's amazing. A lot of our friends like us because we work for this, we do that. It's amazing how many of them will not even pick up your calls. Loss of relationships. So it's very important to understand that retirement has nothing to do with age. We're in an environment where anything can happen at any time.
Well, thank you very much. That's Sebastian Zuze, who is a retirement consultant. Thank you for all those ideas. I'm sure the listeners have benefited. And if you'd like to get in touch with us to follow up on some of the issues that were raised by Sebastian, you can do so on the numbers that are showing on your screen. You can also engage with us on the social media platforms that are also showing on your screen. If you have missed some of our episodes of Economic Forum, you can view our YouTube channel, which is Economic Forum Zimbabwe. So on behalf of our guest, Sebastian Zuze, who has told us about all things to do with retirement planning, as well as the production crew, this is John Masugu wishing you happy viewing.